Diana Smith has been working as a waitress in a restaurant on the corner of Main Street for 6 months. Even though the hours were tough, she greatly appreciated the financial bonus in the form of tips. For the young woman who grew up in a poor family, this job turned out to be the very best option possible. Diana never knew her father, as her mother raised her alone. Rebecca Smith worked as a cleaning lady at a roadside motel, and her salary was barely enough to provide for herself and her daughter. Diana remembered well the times when all her mother could afford was to get her clothes from the thrift stores. Of course, Rebecca would have loved to get her daughter all the new clothes, but she never had the money for it. In order to help her mother, Diana often skipped classes and went to the motel where her mother worked. The naive girl believed that if she and her mother worked together, they would be able to get double pay for their work. Unfortunately, it didn't work that way, and so the family income remained as low as it was. By the time she graduated from school, Diana was dubbed the school beggar and the cleaner's daughter. For this very reason, the young lady flatly refused to go to prom, even despite her mother's best efforts to change her mind. Diana didn't want to endure the ridicule of her peers yet again, since they couldn't seem to understand what it was like to live in poverty. "I'd rather stay home than be the laughingstock of the entire school," Diana thought. Of course, she didn't tell her mother about all her school problems, and thus the woman had no idea how difficult it was for her daughter at school. Diana didn't want to go to college, and therefore she decided not to waste time and started looking for a job right away. At first, it was very difficult to find any suitable job offers. There weren't many options for someone without any experience or specific skills. Finally, fortune smiled on Diana, and all thanks to the elderly restaurant owner, Alfred Mitchell. The man immediately realized that Diana would make an exceptional employee, and therefore he hired her on the spot without a minute's hesitation. And Diana didn't let him down. She quickly learned her way around the restaurant, demonstrating her sincere desire to work. The pretty waitress quickly got her own regulars, who came to the restaurant specifically to be served by Diana and no one else. Working at the restaurant, the young woman learned to read the mood of the customers, who were always delighted with the quality of service and the courtesy of the charming young woman. One day, returning home from work, Diana passed by the city park. Suddenly, she heard some kind of a squeaking sound nearby. What could it be? Diana thought and cautiously approached the bushes. Imagine her surprise when she saw a tiny puppy hiding in the grass. The puppy was squealing plaintively and moving his black nose from side to side. It was rather cold outside, and the poor puppy was shivering. Now, dear, how did you end up here?" Diana whispered, picking up the puppy and holding him tight. Feeling the warmth, the puppy growled gratefully and tried to lick the woman on the cheek. "Well, okay, stop it," Diana smiled. On their way home, the puppy warmed up and started feeling much better. At home, Diana poured some warm milk for the little fellow, adding a few pieces of bread to it. Seeing the treat, the puppy whined impatiently and started devouring it quickly. "What should I call you?" "How about Spike?" the woman asked aloud. The puppy barked loudly and wagged his tail as if to demonstrate his agreement. "Well, that's it then." Diana smiled and laid out a blanket in the corner of the kitchen for the animal to sleep on. To her surprise, Spike obediently lay down on the offered spot, as if he had been there before. Now that Diana had a pet, her life changed for the better. Spike grew up quickly, turning into a large, lean dog. Diana always took her pet to the city park on weekends. There he could go crazy chasing squirrels and hares. At such moments, the woman felt truly happy. Wanting to treat Spike to something special, Diana asked for the owner's permission and brought her dog leftovers from the restaurant kitchen. Needless to say, the animal was overjoyed to get such delicious treats. Time flew by, rushing through the sheets of the tear-off calendar. Since Diana had been working at the restaurant for several months, she already knew her regulars. That day, she came into the restaurant and habitually looked at the tables to see if any of her regulars were in. At that time of day, the restaurant was nearly empty. There were only a couple of people sitting at the tables. There was a local millionaire, Jonathan Davis, who often frequented their restaurant, sitting at the table near the exit. Diana knew that the wealthy landowner always left good tips. Unfortunately, his generosity wasn't the only thing Jonathan Davis was known for. First of all, the millionaire stood out from the rest of the regulars because of his arrogance and self-confidence. Jonathan always acted like he owned the world and never cared for the opinion of ordinary people around him. He could easily throw a bowl of soup at a waitress who he thought had served him the wrong way. Diana knew firsthand about the obstinate nature of the millionaire and tried to address him in an emphatically polite tone. The waitress looked in the opposite direction and immediately noticed a family of three: a father, a mother, and their young son. From the way they looked, Diana immediately concluded that they weren't wealthy. Nevertheless, the customers behaved politely and tried not to attract too much attention to themselves. Unfortunately, sitting near a poor family caused Jonathan Davis to explode in a fit of unjustified aggression and discontent. Calling Diana with his finger, the millionaire asked, "And why do I have to sit next to these beggars? Who are they? Farmers from Arkansas? What are they even doing in a place like this?" Diana turned pale and tried to defuse the situation. "Don't worry, sir. This family won't cause you any problems." But Jonathan Davis wasn't satisfied with the waitress's response. Instead of calming down and pulling himself together, the millionaire started making obscene jokes about the people sitting at the table next to him. Watching the millionaire acting rude towards the people he didn't even know, Diana felt so awkward and uncomfortable that she seemed to have even gotten a fever. The woman had never been in such a situation before, so she didn't even know what to do at first. Meanwhile, the family was enjoying their ice cream and time together, as if nothing had happened. It seemed that the millionaire's outburst didn't cause them any discomfort. Apparently, having grown up in the outback, they had grown used to all kinds of ridicule from rich people who didn't even know what hard work was. But Jonathan Davis wasn't about to give up. Wanting to humiliate the family, the millionaire was getting meaner and meaner with his comments. Meanwhile, Diana was surprised by how calm the family sitting at the table next to him seemed to be. Finally, the woman grew so tired of the inexcusable behavior of the rude millionaire that she decided to take extreme measures. In order to rein in the millionaire, Diana furtively took out her phone and turned on the camera to film everything that was happening. Everything that Jonathan Davis said and did got caught on camera. The millionaire was so sure of his invincibility that he stopped paying attention to what was going on around him. Meanwhile, Diana filmed everything that happened and posted it on the most popular social networks. She understood that she was acting at her own risk, but she couldn't just stand aside and let the millionaire's behavior slide. The video instantly went viral, causing a serious public outrage. Jonathan Davis hadn't even left the restaurant yet when his business partners already started calling him. The main issue was the fact that the millionaire's rudeness caused outrage among shareholders and co-founders. The very next morning, the shares of his company collapsed and Jonathan Davis started suffering huge losses. Only then did the millionaire realize what a mistake he'd made. The most interesting thing, however, was the fact that people from all over the world started sending money to the poor family that was victim of the rich man's attacks. As it turned out a little later, it really was a family of farmers from Arkansas. The head of the family was Howard Price. Despite the fact that part of his farm was destroyed by fire, the man didn't lose heart and looked to the future with hope. And now, having become famous throughout the country, Howard was able to revive his farm and purchase new equipment. All this was made possible thanks to the courage of one waitress who valued justice above all else. Sometime later, Diana got to meet Mr. Price's son, who turned out to be a very pleasant young man. Michael Price appreciated the young woman's help and the way she wasn't afraid to stand up to the millionaire, whom most of the locals were intimidated by. As it turned out later, the encounter at the restaurant was truly life-changing for Diana and Michael. They spent the next 6 months dating, after which the young people decided to get married, making the most important choice in their lives. Meanwhile, Jonathan Davis got what he deserved. Due to the collapse of the Millionaire shares, his wealth decreased several times. Now, he no longer feels like the master of the universe and is well aware of the fact that everything in life can change in a single instant.